In this episode, I have a special co-host, my wife, Nicole. That'd be fun to talk with her about our fitness and health journey over the past 16 years. So we discussed how we decided it was time to do something about our health, the journey we took to get started with exercise, how we stay motivated, what we're doing now that we have an empty nest, and some myths about weightlifting and exercise for women and older people. I'm Larry Cornett, and this is Invincible Life. So, I want to talk a little bit with you about what I'm calling our fitness and health journey that we've been on over the past, let's say, 15 to 16 years. It's kind of roughly what it's been. But first, I want to kind of go back a little bit to our childhood, believe it or not. And I know in my case, I was definitely a skinny kid growing up, not very athletic, so sports and fitness really weren't things that came naturally for me. And I remember struggling to play sports and hating sports and not wanting to run and all kinds of stuff. But what about you? What was the case with your childhood?
I was a pretty small kid and clumsy. So I was always the one who was picked last for the playground games.
I'm familiar with that.
Like dodgeball and such.
Mm-hmm.
I would trip and fall and wasn't very good at throwing. So no, it wasn't very good. Was not very athletic as a child.
Yeah.
I started doing sports in high school just because I had a very small school.
Yeah.
So everybody had to be on the team or we wouldn't have a team.
Yeah.
So still was the one who was on the bench most of the time. The only thing that I enjoyed sports-wise in high school was track because it was individual and I didn't feel like I was letting people down if I didn't do as good of a job as they did. So
Yeah, that sounds familiar. I did play basketball and I did wrestling and I did track junior high and high school, but I wasn't great and spent a lot of time on the bench. I remember that. So I don't know if some of the listeners may not know, but we got married pretty young, like in our early 20s. So, I mean, I've kind of known you, since you were in your last year of college or so. So I know that even in the early years of our marriage, we didn't do a lot of working out. It really wasn't a huge part of what we were doing with our lives. I do remember that we were trying to do some running when we were in Houston.
yeah,
Yeah.
we did run in Houston.
That's what I thought. It was hot. I remember super hot and humid, and we would try to run at night.
And you didn't like it?
No, I didn't like it. At this point, I still was not enjoying the activity. It was like in the 80s, 90% humidity. and there were roaming dog packs that would sometimes
nip
come
at our
out.
heels.
So yeah, I know we dabbled a bit, but still weren't really doing a lot. And then later, when we moved to California and we started having kids, we used to do a lot of walking with our babies. So I remember put one baby in the front pack and the baby Bjorn and have another baby in a stroller, and we'd walk the neighborhoods in Campbell, California, and in Livermore. We lived in Livermore for a while, so we did some walking. We tried to get nightly walks in, I remember that. And then we moved up into the Santa Cruz Mountains. We did a lot of hiking with the kids, so I remember we would do that. But that was about it.
There really wasn't time. I mean, with small kids and stuff, I was busy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have time to do any kind of exercise.
Yeah, and I was working a lot. I was working in tech in Silicon Valley, so I worked really long hours and didn't eat the healthiest food. Because I know for me, it was a strange experience because I had been so skinny as a kid and I could not gain an ounce. I remember desperately trying to gain weight and put on some pounds. But then later in life, when I was in probably my 30s, late 30s, starting to hit early 40s, the sedentary lifestyle and working all the time and eating bad food at work like donuts and pizza and all that kind of stuff, I started putting on weight and I noticed things were not going in a good direction. But when did you kind of first notice that you weren't happy with where your health and fitness were at that time?
Yeah, I guess it was more that, we'd go on our hikes and it was harder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was just things that used to be easy for me because I was just very slowly putting on weight over years and years of not exercising.
Yeah.
That I felt that I needed to do something about it, but didn't know what to do. And so it was just kind
Mm-hmm.
of in my brain, but I didn't do anything about it until a friend of mine was going to be starting a fitness boot camp.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
she was going to have it at a local park at 5 a.m.
That was Tracy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was really the only time that I could do something because I was needed once the kids got up. And so I thought, well, there's no excuse. I'm not doing anything else at 5 a.m.
Right.
So
Yeah.
might as well try it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's kind of how I got started. I remember just getting fed up. I think it was one kind of New Year's after the holidays and thinking about New Year's resolutions. And I think I had broken the kind of that magical weight barrier of getting over 200 pounds. I don't know, there's something symbolic about that where I was like, come on. And that's a lot of weight for me to carry at my height. So it's like being over 200 pounds and similar, just noticing little things. Getting around wasn't as easy. Clothing was tight. Getting in and out of the car and hiking and walking, just being out of breath. And I'd had these P90X DVDs for years. So I'd bought that way back when, telling myself I was going to do it. And of course I didn't. And it had been in the box for years and years. And that January was when I finally cracked open those DVDs and I started using them. And similar, I think I had to get to work pretty early and I had to leave early to commute into the office because I had a long drive. It was anywhere from an hour to 2 hours depending on traffic and if there'd been accidents. So I had to get up really early. So I started getting up at 5 a.m. to work out because it was the only time I could do it. And working out for like an hour and then shower, breakfast, and hit the road and commuting. And that's kind of how it started for me. And I know that helped. That made a big difference.
I think around that time we also started incorporating an after dinner walk.
Oh, that's right.
And
Yeah.
we had the roads in our neighborhood were steep.
Yeah.
And so
Very
we
steep.
would, walk up the hill. I mean, I don't know how long the walk is. It might have been only half hour or
Yeah.
something.
I mean, I think
Maybe
it
longer,
depended. Yeah.
but we were doing that every night.
That's right. Yeah. That made a big difference. I think the kids had gotten
Old enough that
old
they
enough.
could.
Yeah. They could kind of watch each other and take care of each other when we went for the walk up the mountain because it was very steep. I think if we went all the way up to the top, it took like an hour.
Sure.
So I think that was pretty good. We had to dodge cars coming home from their daily commute because it was a very narrow road. But it was good for us. I think that's when we started doing kind of that tradition, which we've kept up with, which is walking and talking, which I think has been really good for our health, but I think also good for our relationship, is
Absolutely.
being able
Yeah.
to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't really talk in front of the kids, right? We had a house full of kids, and if we really wanted to talk and have a adult conversation, we had to leave the house, and so we did these walks and talks, and I think that was pretty good. But I think it was shortly after that. I don't remember how this started. Now I do remember you were starting to run because you would go
Mm-hmm.
down to the old Santa Cruz Highway or whatever, that kind of down the hill.
I wanted to start running again,
Okay.
and I couldn't bring myself to do it unless I had a goal in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I signed up for a 10K, the race through the
Oh, that's
redwoods,
right. Right. Yeah.
and downloaded a couch to 10K training
Mm-hmm.
plan, printed it out, and marked off the workout that I was supposed to do every day. One long run a week. And I really wanted you to do it with me, but you were not interested.
Yes, I remember. I remember.
You were definitely not interested.
Yeah. You did the race
I did, yeah.
by yourself. I think maybe Juliana, our daughter, ran some children's version of it. I seem to remember you guys both had race bibs.
She ran the race with me a different year because I ran it.
Oh,
I
okay.
ran it like 3 different years.
Okay.
Because yeah, it was a fun
And
race.
I finally did join you,
Yes,
I
you did.
think.
I think the third
I
year.
think the third year I finally got into it. But I do remember trying to go with you on a run, and I was not in enough shape to do it. Couldn't keep up, and I just hated it. I was just like really demoralized. And so I was like, "Yep, nope." At that point, I still hated running. I spent most of my life not liking like running like that. I mean, as a kid, you run around, but I didn't do any running, and that did change later. Because I can't remember when you really started with CrossFit and how that all went down. Because you
Well,
actually got into CrossFit.
yeah, I was doing the boot camp with Tracy, and that got me kind of, I'll say, addicted to
Mm-hmm.
the the process and the changes that I was seeing in my energy levels, the changes that I was
Right.
seeing in the way my clothes fit,
Mm-hmm.
just body composition changing. It was exciting. And so I was just going to continue doing the boot camp with, it was, a bunch of women. And I was like, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then things changed in Tracy's life, and she was not going to be doing the boot camp anymore.
Okay.
And she was talking to all of us, knowing that she was leaving us and we had been doing so well, and said that she had done CrossFit before and she thought that we were ready to try that. And since we were coming from an all women workout group, we were all a little apprehensive because she said,
Sure. Yeah.
and then we read stuff about CrossFit, and there's all this stuff about it being a
It's a
cult.
cult. It's a cult.
And so we were
Right.
leery, and she said, just try it. If you don't like it, you don't have to go back, but just try it.
Right.
So I went, a coach that she had recommended, and tried it. And even though I was definitely the least fit and least capable person there when I started, I was absolutely hooked. I
Right.
really thought it was fantastic, and I just, every day I would go home and talk to you and tell you that I thought that you would like it.
I remember.
And you said,
Yeah.
I don't think so. Because I had never been in a gym before, ever,
Right.
in
Yeah.
my entire
me
life.
neither, really. Yeah.
And I said, I think you'll like it. I think you'll like it. You kind of pushed back for a while, and then you said, okay, I'll try it.
Yeah.
And you did.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think
that
you
was
liked it.
that was huge. Yeah. I had gone to a gym a couple of times, like a Gold's Gym, and that was not a good experience for me. I was like, okay, forget it. Didn't appeal. And I heard weird stuff about CrossFit, like you were saying, like, oh, it's a cult, it's weird, it's all this kind of stuff. But we had a really good coach there, Courtney Maxwell, give him a shout out, that he was CrossFit certified, but he was also certified with powerlifting and Olympic lifting. So he knew more than just CrossFit. He knew a lot about traditional weightlifting. Great coach. Courtney was a great coach. We had a lot of good coaches at that CrossFit box. That was really good. Yeah, that was, I don't remember how quickly I got hooked. It was pretty fast because CrossFit, even though a lot of people give it grief, one of the cool things about it is how incredibly supportive people are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you don't know what you're doing, you're not super fit, everyone is very, very positive and encouraging, and you want to keep going back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was the big thing for me, is very different vibe than Gold's Gym, as you can imagine. It was just normal people. There were people that were really good, really strong, and really talented at doing the workouts, because CrossFit's a mix of weightlifting and body weight stuff and running and all kinds of stuff, pull-ups, you name it. Some people were really good, and other people were just people. They were just average, everyday people there that were still just getting after it. And it's about an hour. You warm up and then you do the workout, and we had the CrossFit workout, and then we always had a weightlifting component that Courtney had programmed. And then we do a kind of a cool down with stretching. So the end to end, it was like an hour. And it was just regular people. But the thing that I think that got me going was just people were really cool about it. They were very supportive, encouraging. No one mocked anybody for being a beginner. No one ever did stuff like you see at other gyms, making fun of you if you're not strong enough or whatever. Always trying to help each other and coach each other and cheer each other on, and keeping you motivated, and having people there, because we made friends there that are expecting you to show up. So I remember, lifting with some of the guys that were there, and if you don't show up, they're like, "Where were you? I was counting on you. You're going to be there to be my spotter or whatever, right?" And I think the other thing that happened kind of hand in hand with CrossFit is we started eating healthier. That seemed to be a change too.
What happened was the paleo challenge,
right? Yep.
that triggered a complete revamping. I mean, I don't think we were eating terribly.
No, we weren't.
But definitely kind of starting over with completely clean eating.
Right.
And that definitely changed.
Yeah,
and for
that was
me, big. One of the reasons, besides the community that I kept going back for, was getting stronger. And the feeling of empowerment,
right,
that came from being able to lift heavy things, which is something that I didn't know that I needed.
right.
But when it started happening, I think it changed how I thought about myself.
Yeah, I noticed.
And yeah, it was definitely life-changing.
Yeah.
Unexpected.
Yeah, it is. I talk about this all the time with this podcast, and also in my career podcast and stuff, about how important all of this is, because it all fits together. Like your physical health and well-being and your physical capability impacts your confidence, right? You feel more confident.
Definitely.
So yeah, you'd mentioned the body recomposition, and I definitely was noticing that. And I had changed my diet a little bit even before that, stopping eating the garbage at work and starting to eat salads for lunch and things like that. So I lost like 40 pounds or more, I think, So I
Yeah.
dropped down, um, got stronger. I remember when I first started, I couldn't do a single pull-up.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do a single pull-up unassisted, right? And then within like, I don't know, less than 6 months, I was doing unassisted pull-ups, lots of pull-ups. I got really good at doing pull-ups actually, because it's easier when you lose weight. Things get a lot easier. Um, yeah, it's really been a confidence booster too. Yeah, as I was saying, and I think it changes your outlook on life, and you never can after that go back to the way it was before.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've been doing it ever since, right? It's been 15, 16 years, as I said, that we've been doing this.
Well, you don't do CrossFit anymore, but you do
Right,
take care of
exactly.
yourself
So
physically. It
that's
doesn't matter what it is, but yeah.
right. So that's the other thing I wanted to touch on is I think Nicole and I are different in terms of what motivates us and what we enjoy about working out. Um, like you like the group experience of the gym, and I
I
don't
do.
dislike it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't know, something
I need
changed
it.
for me.
Yeah.
Go on.
I was going to say that I need that group thing to push myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've tried working out here at home, and I can do the things, but I don't push myself hard enough. If it gets difficult or I get bored, I stop. And I'm not going to do that in a group situation.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
keep going, and I push myself harder, and that's how you see results and you get better. And I just need that. I really struggle doing stuff on my own,
Mm-hmm.
as far as like lifting weights and stuff goes.
Yeah. I think for me, I think what was happening is I was getting really competitive. So,
Yeah.
I was in my 40s, late 40s, and there's really young people, in their 20s, sometimes even teenagers, and I couldn't help myself but get really competitive with the young guys, and they would get competitive with me, and so I would push myself, which is good on the one hand, but I would push myself
Too far.
beyond. Um, and I remember I tore a muscle and I messed up my shoulder, and I was getting injured more often is what was happening. I was pushing myself super hard to lift more, to run faster, and trying to compete, with somebody who's 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of noticed that I needed to dial back. And you can do this at CrossFit. It's not like they discourage you from doing that. They tell you to scale appropriately, but then it just made me feel bad. So I was like, I don't like not being able to be that competitive. So I started building out a home gym. And so I work out in the home gym, and I do mostly, it's all powerlifting. I do some other stuff too, but it's a lot of powerlifting. And then we do the trail running, and we do skiing, and we do other stuff too. And that works for me. Yeah, I'm tracking numbers, and we hadn't mentioned that, but being able to track your performance is very motivating.
Oh,
Right.
definitely.
Seeing yourself get faster, seeing yourself get stronger, all that is really good. And so, yeah, we're still doing it. We still work out almost every single day, and do stuff on the weekends too. I wanted to touch a little bit on some of the myths, because we've been talking about a lot of, CrossFit and weightlifting and all that kind of stuff. And weightlifting's a big part of it, powerlifting and some Olympic lifting too. And I think that's where a lot of people have kind of a mental block. And I know you've heard it, I've heard it. When we talk about you lifting weights and women lifting weights, there's a lot of myths and misconceptions about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But it's so important, especially
yeah.
for women, and especially for women as they get older.
Mm-hmm.
Super important to do weight bearing exercise.
Yeah. I think there is, because you've been lifting weights forever, and
Well,
and you can tell you lift weights. Like, you can tell that Nicole lifts weights. Like, she has really nice shoulders, and she has great muscle tone and all that kind of stuff. You can see it. But she doesn't look like a guy. That whole thing of if you lift weights, you're going to look like a guy. It's like,
No.
it's not going to happen. Unless you're doing some chemical enhancements
Sure.
and lifting's 8 hours a day, you're not going to look like a guy, as if that's a problem anyway. But anyway, but I've seen the benefits with Nicole lifting weights and being able to do stuff just in life, lift heavy things in and out of the car, and she helps me
Bags of dog
move
food,
furniture.
bags of pellets. Yeah.
Yeah, lift the kayak, all that kind of stuff. And it's helped other stuff too. Like, I mean, you still do a lot of running. I'd say that you run more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done running challenges where you've run kind of over 2,000 miles a year and tracked it, and some challenges with our daughter and sister-in-law doing that kind of stuff. And what we've noticed is that CrossFit and the weightlifting makes everything else better too. And it makes you a really well-rounded, active person and athlete, because it's made our skiing better.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say my knees used to bother me all the time, and they don't. My back used to bother me all the time. When I was even a kid, I had a back that I was like, I just have a bad back. And my dad said, yep, runs in our family. We have bad backs.
Yeah, I had back problems for years
Right,
too,
yeah.
which I can't remember the last time I had a
I haven't
problem
heard
with
it.
my back.
Yeah, that was a huge problem pre-CrossFit. A lot of back trouble. A lot of back trouble. And it kind of makes sense when you think about it. And I've noticed it, even just physically, you can tell when you do a great weight training kind of program like we've been doing for years. It's building up supportive tissue around your joints. So you get muscle around your spine, you get muscle in your legs, around your knees. Everything is more contained and supported. And so things get better, definitely. Our hiking's been better. So being able to hike, we just hiked last week for 9 miles up in the mountains, and it was like over 5 hours, tons of elevation gain, and our legs weren't the problem, right?
No.
We
The
were
fact that
thirsty.
we kept getting lost.
We kept getting lost.
That was the problem.
Maybe that's why it took 5 hours.
And I know it kind of sounds like a CrossFit commercial, but it's not really
No,
about
because I don't do CrossFit anymore.
Yeah, it's not about CrossFit, but I think it is about weight training.
Yeah.
I think weight training is magic.
Yeah, we mentioned how good it is for women, definitely for bone density and strength. But we're both getting older. I'm in my late 50s. Super important for older people. And it's unfortunately something that most people stop doing or never start doing. But as you get older, your bones get more fragile, your muscles get weaker, you lose muscle mass, right?
You lose muscle mass. We're constantly losing it, so we're just trying to fight that.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, the weightlifting slows it. That slows the reduction so that we can do stuff. Like, people are surprised that we still run and hike and ski and do all this stuff. And I credit weightlifting and all the stuff that we do for making that possible. Just makes life better. That's something that we started doing last year. I refer to it as our wonderful Wandering Wednesdays. But we take off every Wednesday. And depending on the season, we either go hiking most of the day, or do that. We go skiing. Tomorrow we're going to go kayaking. So we are staying super active, and so it isn't just CrossFit. We do a lot of other stuff besides CrossFit and weightlifting. We do like hiking and running and skiing, and now we're adding in kayaking. We're trying to do something a little bit different. Yeah, it's just super important. Any last thoughts that you have that you wanted to share with folks about how much you believe in it, how much it's changed your life, or how much you think people really should think hard about adding this into their life?
Well, I think that what is especially important to me is that girls aren't intimidated by barbells, and realize that lifting weights is not a gendered thing, and that they
Right.
can. I just think it's super important. For young women especially to feel strong, and it seems, I don't know, kind of silly that like being physically strong could make them strong in other ways, but I think it's
It
absolutely the
does.
truth.
Yeah. 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 It's funny. I know a lot of people have, if you're not a weightlifter, you don't get it. You might think that weightlifters are meatheads. But weightlifting and the process that you go through and the exercise, everything that we do, when we push ourselves beyond boundaries, right? We make ourselves do something that's hard almost every day. It makes you more resilient and stronger and courageous and confident in other ways. It really does. It's totally changed our confidence. We haven't even talked about the fact that our kids do this stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been part of this. We took them on hikes ever since they were little babies. They've been in backpacks and then toddlers. And so they've been nature lovers and hikers and very active, playing soccer, rowing. They did CrossFit with us too. So they did a lot of CrossFit. They're still doing weightlifting. They're doing
Mm-hmm.
rock climbing. Our kids are super active, and they're just in their early 20s. So we're so excited about that they're getting off on the right start, something that took us into our 40s to do.
Yeah.
So we had to make up for lost time. But they're doing it from the get-go, which we hope just makes their lives that much better, that they're going to be that much healthier their entire lives instead of trying to make up for it later like we had to. So it's been an important part of our family. We often, when we're all together, the kids are older now, so they're other places. But when we get back together, we go on hikes together. It's one of the things that we just love to do, and we don't have to force them. And when we go to visit our kids, like we visit our daughter in Alaska, she took us on hikes. So we did a lot of hikes in Alaska, and I'm sure we'll be doing more this summer. They like it, and then they encourage us to do it, and they've seen how good it's been for us. And we haven't kind of talked a lot about this, but this has been, I think, an important part of our marriage and our relationship. So we've been married for over 33 years now, and I've talked about that before in a previous kind of newsletter, but I think the fact that we're so active together, that we're spending, every Wednesday doing stuff together, we kind of call it an all-day date. And on the weekends, we do stuff together. We go hiking and walks, and we do a lot of walks throughout the week too. I think it's been good for our relationship that we are an active couple together, not
Yeah.
always separately and doing stuff separately.
No, I think so.
Yeah, so that's about it. I just wanted to share this with you and invite my special guest, my wife, Nicole, being gracious enough to do this strange thing that I've been doing for years, talking into a microphone. But I'd love to have her on the show more often, so show her some love in the comments. Let us know. You can go to newsletter.invinciblelife.me if you want to check out more of the podcast episodes, more of the newsletters, and leave comments. Let us know what you think. But if we could just leave you with one big takeaway, it's invest in this. This isn't just about your health, even though that's a good enough reason to do it. Investing in your fitness and your health and making it part of your daily life.
Can impact
Yeah.
all the rest of your
It
life.
impacts everything. It makes everything better. And it really does. It's helped a lot with my emotional well-being too. And I've talked about my struggles with depression, and we talk about struggles with anxiety, stress. Anytime I'm feeling that, I hit the weights and I feel better. I instantly feel better. And it's kind of crazy. So check it out. Get a good coach. Get some training so you don't get hurt or do things the wrong way. It makes a big difference to have a coach and have some formal training. And then you'll see if you want to stick with it, do CrossFit or join a gym or have a coach, a personal trainer, or if you get to the point of doing it on your own. But I would say getting some training up front helps you get off on the right start. Absolutely. All right. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Until next time, I wish you the best of luck with pursuing the life of your dreams so you can be happier, healthier, and more fulfilled.